Okay, we are at the top of the hour, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome. Happy Wednesday. Welcome to the Platform Analytics Academy session for Wednesday, September the 6th. Glad to see that we have a really great turnout, have some really great presenters on and some panelists. So look forward to being a really good session. So quickly, I'll just kind of go through some logistical information and then we'll get directly into the content. So as usual, this is always for you. We try to bring fresh ideas and better understanding as it relates to platform analytics, performance analytics, and reporting inside of the platform. This will be recorded. It'll be out on the community later on this afternoon or early tomorrow morning. It'll also be out on our YouTube playlist that we have as well. Q&A, please feel free to ask questions. If you can, put those in the Q&A because we do have additional panelists that are on that will try to answer those questions. If they can answer them via type, they'll do that. But if it's something that needs to be asked out loud, we'll do that as well. And there will be a break or two inside of the presentation itself to see if there are some questions that are related to the content. If you do have questions that are unrelated, feel free to ask those as well. If we can get to those live, we'll get to that after we're done with the presentation that we have on hand today towards the end of the call. But please feel free to ask those anyway, because those could, like I said, quite possibly be answered by any of the panelists that are on the call today. So safe harbor, this is probably pretty important today, and Robert Jean will talk about this a little bit more, I know, but please make sure that you understand as you're listening to the content that we're covering today, please keep in mind a safe harbor and all the things that you do here, because there are definitely some forward, statements that we have, forward-looking statements that are inside of the content today. As usual, my name is Thomas Davis, and I do have Robert Jean on today, who's going to be presenting some really great content. Talk about some enhancements and some really great things that you'll be able to do in the future and some things that you can actually do now. Olga Rakina is here as well. She is a panelist along with the rest of my team. Dan, Adam, and Tara are also here. If they're not, I know they'll be trickling in. So again, we have some really great people on that can answer some questions and be prepared to answer questions. Like I said, really great content that we have today, and it's on the topic of platform analytics to the next level. I'm actually looking really forward to seeing this content as well from RJ. So RJ, the floor is yours. You can take it whenever you want.
Cool. Thanks. Thanks, Thomas. Can you hear me okay?
Sure.
Cool. Let me take over the screen. All right. Let me make this one full. There we go. So first of all, hi, everyone. For those that might not know me, my name is Robert Barmetlo. I'm a product manager within our Now Platform Analytics team. Thanks for being here and allowing me to tell you all about doing analytics once you, what we call, have activated the analytics in the next experience. So in today's Academy session, we are specifically focused on more the value and the benefits that come with the analytics that you will be doing in what we call the next experience. And just to be clear up front, the whole new next experience analytics is your near future way of using your in-platform analytics. It will basically replace everything that you currently do around dashboards and analytics chart creation, as well as consumption, and actually later at a later stage also on the configuration of those individual data sources. So what I first like to prevent is that you see this as there's this new additional thing that we have to learn to be able to do analytics in platform, but more see it as this is a next analytics experience that is better in many ways, and where eventually everything will just evolve into. And to be honest, it's not really new. Many parts you can already use as of today through the what we currently have as the Platform Analytics workspace. So it's absolutely a good practice to already get familiar with what's out there right now. And as you will also hopefully understand from the coming slide, it is better in many ways. I think Adam also mentioned in the past that there's just so much, there's so many features to look at. There's the whole combination of the value itself is also really good, which allows us to do many things that we weren't able before. I will absolutely miss or forget some of the specific enhancements or features and value that is there, but we will be able to mention those in either later sessions that we do or just through the normal ways of communication and enablement material. So just before we start, quick disclaimer, I absolutely personally don't know everything, but I do feel very strong about the coming topic, as I do agree and I do believe that this is potentially of great value for you. But I do have the amazing team with Tara and Olga and Dan and Thomas and of course Adam also in the call, and they will be hopefully super active on the Q&A in answering all your questions. Okay, Thomas also already showed this safe harbor slide. We always look ahead to the future and share those plans of things that are also in actual development. So it is important to always remember that those forward-looking statements that I might make or will most likely make are subject to risk and uncertainties. So in this presentation, I will absolutely show and tell some expected product outcome, and that is how we look at them today. And as always, through also these sessions, we learn, and we mostly directly from you learn new things, and we adapt. So things will change. So I think it's also good to directly emphasize that going to the next experience analytics is a journey that we like to take together with you, meaning that we will do multiple ways of communication, absolutely also here in the Academy sessions, but not just to show the value and direction, but also to hear your thoughts, to learn about your worries, your feelings, the needs that you might have when using analytics in the next experience, and to really get that feedback and validation. So when you think about this as if this is the future of in-platform analytics, what might I need to be ready for that? And how will I get my company fully adopted? And how will we be able to utilize this in-platform analytics best? And any questions that you might have is also super beneficial for us, because we are planning to also deliver some frequently asked questions and best practices through the communities. So the answers to those questions we know are most likely questions that other customers might also have, and that we will be able to immediately share through the community to a larger group of customers. Okay, starting with this slide, 3 images of all different types of analytics on screen. This is where we are right now. The Platform Analytics brought updates in Tokyo and in the Utah release, just as you will soon see them in Vancouver. And most, if not all of those features and capabilities are in what we nowadays call the Next Experience UIs. Those you can already utilize today, which we have in Platform Analytics workspace. And you most likely often already heard us talk about them and the problem we'd hope to solve with them. But we often talked about them just as we were showing them, being often in isolation. And the value was absolutely mentioned of those isolated parts, but was often mentioned as this isolated product output. And what we missed so far was providing you the information of the full picture. I heard actually some of you literally ask me, show us the full plan and show us the full value proposition of us doing all our analytics work in what you call the Next Experience UI. Simple questions like, why should we move and why should we care? And so far, there are some amazing individual features, but it just didn't have that biggest incentive for you to actually move your analytics way of working into the next experience. And that the biggest incentive, which was your main ask, your main requirement, being your own content, all your reports and dashboards that you've created over the past. So if those are still in the core UI 16 world, so yes, I can create something new maybe in the next experience, but to actually shift my, let's say, quote unquote, analytics way of working, I would need my data. And rightfully so. We allowed you to create all that content over all those years in the core UI dashboards and reports. You shouldn't have the need to actually recreate them. Now, the fact is that soon we will actually be delivering that way to move your content over. So we thought it is time to really start to accelerate on things like enablement and training, but also the generic messaging and marketing around Next Experience Analytics. So today, my plan is actually to take that step back and we'll look holistically at the value of using analytics in the Next Experience itself. So look at that true value proposition where it, for example, differs from analytics that we're doing in the core UI, but still, of course, utilizing the benefits that come with being part of a platform. What I'll do is I'll start super high level, but don't worry, I will go a little bit more in detail and then all the way back into the individual features and capabilities that we also talked about in sessions before, and will most likely talk about in sessions to come. But just to make sure that you get the full picture, how we talk about this overall value and how that represents within the solutions itself. All right. Going to the value proposition. Circling back to what I mentioned at the beginning on why should you be using the next experience analytics solutions. And I'd say if I think about that, if I look at that, we'd have not one, but actually a few unique identifiers that can actually bring that value in the next over the old core UI analytics. So when we are looking at your needs, and what we often heard was around the ease of use and things like easy adoption to create better analytics. It should look better. It should have more charting options. It should be better presentable. There should be more ways to enable the average user to create good analytics and basically allow any normal user some good consumption on it. Fact is, it's currently often simply too hard. It's too hard to create strong analytics widgets or meaningful reports. And often also because the analytics in the current approach in the core UI 16 world still feels pretty isolated. Some analytics tools almost feel like they are sort of this disjointed application. And to be honest, it's not within the most engaging UIs as well. So what we're actually solving through the next experience analytics is, I think, that key benefit in bringing you those more modern and analytics intuitive experiences that most of all are unified. And I will say unified or consistency. I will say that a lot during my presentation. But that's the case. That's the fact. They are consistent. And once you adopt and once you truly learn a way to do something, you basically adopt it for everything. So that adoption and that consistency that counts for whether you are configuring analytics as well as the consumption of your analytics. So summarizing everything, we are still providing you the main platform benefits, that big differentiator over other tools out there, that we're able to do the analytics and reporting there where the data is, always real time and secure, and the ability to natively integrate it in where you do the work, but now also with removing the pain points around those more siloed experiences, that we are pushing you somewhere to learn something, to learn analytics or consume analytics or create analytics that are also often hard to learn and often limited. And where now we will also offer this more consistent creation and consumption experience that is actually more feature rich and that looks better, that is just better. Okay, if I go one level deeper, when we look at the unified analytics experience, we want to bring that consistency that I just talked about, and it should be this more cohesive experience that when approaching analytics, everything is just together and everything works seamlessly, and everything works whether you're consuming or creating something. It just works the same, and that actually starts with navigation. Currently, we basically force you to all those different areas of the platform, and that is something that will change. So single dashboards to consume any data analytics, or we have these single builders to configure them regardless of the data source. But also a single analytics home and navigation, meaning that we're actually bringing everything together under an analytics menu directly from your all left side menu, the thing that you are familiar with using the platform. And currently, if we compare it again with the core UI 16 world, you would already be in different menus depending on whether you want to build a report or maybe you want to build this PA indicator widget. So we think that this will absolutely help you and your users to actually start where they need to be, and bringing them actually in less clicks, to the content that they want to consume or the things that they need to create. Then there's next level charting. And what we want to do in the next experience is also bringing the analytics charts to what we would say the next level. Not just visually into this more modern look and feel, but also when we look at options. So configuration options as well as styling options. And of course, everything will work based on the theme that you might be using within the instance. Maybe some company theme, maybe the dark mode, or just the normal mode. And then most importantly, we made them data source agnostic. And this is probably the true magic that we apply to our analytics data visualizations that made it possible to bring that consistency that I was talking about earlier, to be more unified. There it is again, the word unified. With data source agnostic, we mean basically detaching the data source layer from the analytics charting layer, where the data source will define the options that you can use within the chart, within the analytics. But how you consume or configure a chart, that's actually the same. So regardless of the data source, it will use the same way how you consume a chart or how you create a chart. The data source will just allow you to have more options based on the data source that you pick. For example, if you're using indicator data, you will have more options around doing something with data over time, for example, trending and forecasting. Then looking at consistency, which actually connects pretty well with the previous slide, the fact that we approach everything data source agnostic allowed us to bring that analytics solution itself in this consistent, unified way. So this actually allows us to get rid of all the specific builders that we have in the core UI 16. Not that they were bad, but often the issue is that they were different. They were different from one another, whether you were using a PA widget form or you were using something like the report designer or the report builder. And with that, with trying to learn all these different solutions, it is impacting your adoption. And we really wanted to solve that by bringing everything into this one consistent way. For example, through the visualization designer that will allow you to create the analytics regardless of the data source. So that is actually what we are doing in the next. We're bringing that visualization designer to consume and create those single data visualizations, as well as the dashboard builder to actually create and consume those dashboards. But also other components that you might use within those dashboards, like filtering. Within the next experience, we're actually also capable of bringing those filters also unified. So one single filter solution, regardless of the data source underneath.
Hey, Robert, can I ask to ask you a quick question here? Because I think it's a good question. It's a question about what release are you showing? So I realize it's all still projections. It's not projections at this point, but for all this information, are you talking about Vancouver, Washington, or something beyond Washington? Can we clarify that?
Yeah, absolutely. It is a good question. Many of the things that I will work towards as we talk about, hey, when will we move everything into this next experience? That is a future release. That is not actually something that I've been showing yet. The things that I have been showing are things that are actually already possible within your own instance, and I think already as of Tokyo. So Tokyo, Utah, as well as Vancouver will already offer you some of this ability, but now currently residing within what we would call the Platform Analytics workspace. And that's what we actually want to get rid of. Because we, of course, want everyone to adopt the full, doing their full analytics, their analytics way of working into the next experience, we want to enable them to actually make that shift. But that shift will not be earlier than Washington or Xanadu. So many of the individual features that I'm showing, something like that visualization designer, technically is already there. You can already use it, but as we mentioned before, we often said, hey, start using it right now just to get familiar and to get comfortable with the features over there. We don't expect you to move your whole way of working there simply because your content isn't there, your current data isn't there. Once we allow you to activate the next experience analytics. With that, we will actually bring a way to move your content over. From that moment, that will basically be your baseline, your default. And I will mention that and some timeline in a bit. Proactive analytics capabilities. So in the next experience, we want to bring you these what we call proactive analytics features, these capabilities, meaning making sure that you can actually get to the analytics without the need to really having to search for it. Ideally, even before you thought you needed them. So actually giving you the meaningful insight before you thought you needed that insight. Because if we're capable of finding those things that are actually happening inside your data that might influence maybe something within your service performance, then why hide that information? So we want to allow you to configure insights to be shown that will support your end users to understand what's going on and how and where they might need to take some action. One of the things that we've also done was we've enhanced our exploratory tools to find those insights in your data. We added more data science logic to our predictive analytics capabilities. And by the way, also making those data source agnostic, meaning that if you have good predictive features on PA indicator data, why not apply the same logic for other store data over time? For example, data from metric base. So also there, that unified approach immediately bringing those benefits of doing analytics on top of, in this case, data over time. The next experience solutions will also bring stronger integration with other tools. So for example, how performance analytics works together with something like CIM, continuous improvement management, or process mining, or enable you to do your analytics and immediately maybe fix workflows through flow design or any other platform capability. And last but not least, the next experience will absolutely very easily allow you to integrate the analytics just about everywhere. So we've been talking about just showing them on dashboards or creating or consuming them in isolation, but you can actually put them anywhere inside the workflow that you need and really allow for that business decision making that happens based on analytics there where you do the work. And again, also for this, many of the individual capabilities might already be there. The things like dashboard insight is already a Vancouver feature. Things like the KPI exploration tool, those are already out there as of, I believe, San Diego or Tokyo or Utah. But also those still all reside within what we call the Platform Analytics workspace. And that is currently just there for you to use, to start using. But of course, if your content isn't there, we agree, or we very much understand that that might not have a lot of adoption. So things will really change once your actual content is there. And if we're then looking at specifically the Xanadu and the Yokohama release, a lot of new enhancements are actually planned for the analytics that we're doing on the next experience UIs. It will be the next experience. It says here, improved data needs, but the next experience will be the host of what we call the new analytical data model. And you might have heard us talk about it before in Academy sessions or in separate customer-facing programs. Through this data model, we want to solve your future data needs, not just on performance and data volume, but also how you query data, allowing things like one of the common heard request was intraday time series data to view or to query that intraday time series data. Or of course, the most requested need on the idea portal being the numbers of breakdown within PA. Next to that, the insights, we're delivering these insights to really provide you the insight without you having the need to search for the actual meaningful insight in the data. With the Xanadu release, these will actually also get a lot smarter and will be based on different types of analytics signals that we got. For example, based on your targets or thresholds and those insights will be seamlessly together with also other workflow type of insights, for example, coming from ITSM. And you will be able to also surface those insights on more places, for example, as those dashboard insight cards or notifications or wherever you want to be informed on something that's happening. It says chart interactivity. One of the things that we are thinking of and currently building for Washington, as well as thinking of for Xanadu and the Yokohama release, is to have the ability to do more with charts. For example, to add maybe some annotations. So the ability to actually annotate what is happening within the chart, which I believe can be a great enhancement on how consumers will actually be able to understand the insight, because data often needs context to really become meaningful. And often a specific subject matter expert is the best one to actually provide that context to the chart. So if we allow the ability to actually annotate something that is happening, we really help with understanding the analytics. And the next step there is not just annotate, but actually collaborate, actually having the ability to do some conversation within that chart annotation. And of course, it says AI-powered analytics assist, being AI. I personally believe AI can have a huge role together with analytics. I don't necessarily think that AI will immediately be better in predicting or prescripting. The actual data science we do within the analytics will not so quickly change, I believe, as those are all, of course, these proven analytics concepts. But where we can have AI absolutely help and support is within the consumption or the creation of it. So, for example, having something like AI Assist help you create some analytics data visualization for you and then actually place it on a dashboard, or maybe to provide you that extra context that you might need to really understand the analytics as you are consuming it. I think that is what will truly make it a meaningful insight. Okay. There is a poll, I think, Thomas. Yes, there is a poll. I would love to understand from you what, from all those benefits that I just mentioned, would you be most excited about? So it shows here certain things. Feel free to select and let's see what comes out. And by the way, after this, I will actually go even one level deeper and show you what is actually changing within many of them, some actually before and after images, as well as explain some of the actual improvements within those features. Thomas, can we actually see the result on screen, or is there a way to... I still have the...
Yeah, I thought it was actually showing, but I guess not.
I think it only does for hosts. It's actually showing.
Yeah, I can tell you what
when you end
is winning is easier tools to create analytics. I mean, 48%, it's leading. Oh, wow. Second is improved consistency to easier adopt analytics at around 21%. And then third would be easier exploration of my KPIs. But hands down, easier tools to create analytics is now at 50%. That is the top one.
Yep. And my understanding, I think as soon as we end the poll, it should give us the summary for everybody.
Okay, let's see if that happens. Here we go. Is it showing?
Share results.
Results.
Yep. There we go. Oh yeah. Yeah. Perfect. Cool. Yeah. This makes sense. Of course. I think with looking at the easier tools, that is absolutely something that we've heard a lot, as well as the consistency, which I think is intertwined. They are related. The fact that we have those disjointed experiences to either create something or consume something is not helping with the fact for your generic adoption in learning something, whether you can create or consume your analytics. So both are very much related, or actually all of them are, of course, super related. Okay. I will continue with that one level deeper. Again, I will jump back into the specific analytics navigation. The thing that is happening is I mentioned that during Tokyo and Utah, you can already see many of those features, those capabilities in what we call the Platform Analytics workspace. This will actually change. So with Washington, we are moving those experiences out of the workspace menu and actually bring it directly under a main analytics menu inside your normal menu navigation. The reason we do this is I feel, and I think we all felt, that by putting it there, it would still position, we would still position it somewhat as a disjointed experience, where analytics should actually just be part of the platform. Analytics is part of the platform, just as your data is part of the platform. So we think that it should always just be available with this one menu click. You open up the left side menu and boom, there it is, analytics. Workspaces also are by design very much targeted around which is often a single user persona that does a certain workflow task, a flow that has a start and an end. And we just felt that that wasn't the case for analytics. So analytics, of course, serves multiple personas. We just have the end users that just want to consume their dashboard, or we have those that configure maybe for others, and we have admins, and we have the power users, and we have people that are service owners. All come in with different needs and purposes, and therefore we needed to position it more as a full experience over a fixed workflow workspace pattern. So what will happen is once you click the Analytics Center, this actually brings you to that main analytics home screen on the next experience. From there, you can go to dashboards and data visualizations and KPIs and filters. But of course, you can also directly go there from the left side menu. And by the way, once you've gone through the actual migration of your current content, also your links will be updated to go directly to that new environment. But I will have more information on that in a bit. So if we look at some images like before and after, as just mentioned, this is how that will look. This is how it looked before, where you, again, have all those capabilities within those different areas within the menu. And actually, with having the Platform Analytics workspace, we currently have a third way there, and we want to get rid of that. So it all needs to evolve into this single menu item. And once you click there, it will bring you to the analytics with the capabilities underneath. Looking at specifically the visualization designer. So when I mentioned the unified approach, the consistent approach, this is going forward the only designer that you will need. So again, regardless of the data source underneath, whether that's just table data or that's a PA indicator or that's metric based or maybe user experience analytics data and so on, you can actually also push in your own JSON blob of data, and in the near future, we'll actually enhance it to also more easily connect your own external data sources. All those data sources will use the same way to create and configure your analytics. We changed it. We changed the way how you do that, because the classic versions of the builders, all the different builders that we had, they were always perceived to be too hard to use. So in the next experience, we more follow this configuration model that is familiar also with other tools out there, and allow you to really create something in context. So while you're actually you're moving the knobs and switching and doing the configuration, you actually immediately see it happen on the screen. Of course, additionally, with that new data visualization designer, we also have new charts to pick from. They're all more feature rich. For example, take one as the pivot table. We got a ton of extra features over the ones that you currently have in performance analytics and reporting. Plus, we also improved the way how you configure a geographical map, which was pretty complex. And there are a lot more specific chart enhancements. Mostly all charts will have these more configuration options. So for example, options on how you aggregate data, how you sort data, maybe styling options, how you want that you want to apply on things like your axes, your legends, truncation of text, data label, coloring, everything. And we also have a similar configuration for that also for filters. So also for filters, more options. For example, around date filters, where you now have the ability to not just select a predefined date range, but actually use the open date and time range selection to select the filtering. Or maybe something around cascading filters that were often very hard to configure and actually also sometimes to use to consume. We improve that experience also to be easier in setup, as well as when you would be using them with other filters on a dashboard. So looking at
RJ, real quick. I know that we have a planned break a few slides ahead for some questions, but maybe we can go ahead and answer a few of them that have come in. Yep. Dan, do you want to answer the one that you grabbed now?
Yep. Yeah, there's a question around content packs, and the content packs are great starting point, but then feel like the baseline content in comparison in the new experience, the next experience, is still lacking in that new world. Yes, that is absolutely true. The individual product teams, like say HR, if you have an HR development team, for example, it's a customer service development team, they manage what the out of the box content is, and for the most part up until this point there have been so few customers that had actually moved to next experience that they really weren't too worried about creating content for that just yet. So but that is a major project underway right now, actually. Should be seeing more about that in the next 3 to 6 months, but the individual teams, development teams, are working on right now on how they're going to manage the transition from the core UI or the old dashboards into the new ones. So you're absolutely right. It's light right now, but it should be picking up certainly in Washington and absolutely in Xanadu.
Okay, great. Thank you, Dan. Marta, did you want to answer that one that you have now, or after RJ is done? I think you tagged one to answer it live.
I know Olga did.
Yeah, that's what I thought I said. Did I say Olga? Did I say?
Olga, Marta, I guess we're same
Did
person.
I say Marta?
Interchangeable.
I'm sorry. Man, I don't know why I did that.
It's okay. I think Robert Jan will be covering it in the presentation, the migration part. So he will answer it as it goes further.
Okay, and there's quite a few that talk about roles and permissions and things like that. And Robert John, if you're gonna get to a slide that talks about that, then we can definitely wait later for those.
Sorry, I was double muted. I don't have specifically a slide for that. Some things will change on roles, but by default, not too much. It's still whenever you're, for example, creating PA indicators or something, that will all at first still stay to be the same. You need certain roles to do certain actions. The things that we're showing on the next experience analytics are basically for all. Those are available for all. Also consumption is for all. But of course, creation of specifically performance analytics indicator data within still comes with specific premium offering or roles that follow that.
Okay, great. You can keep going now.
Okay, going to dashboards. So with the next experience, we immediately added a ton of features that we just believe are pretty common. Many were actually asked by you through the community, through the idea portal, but unfortunately we're never there in the core UI. For example, the ability to just maybe quickly duplicate a data visualization. So imagine you just configured a chart widget and maybe it has some challenging data query underneath, and now you can just duplicate that and use that one as a starting point for maybe an other analytics chart. And by the way, you can also do that on a tab level as well as on the whole dashboard level. So easily duplicate anything to immediately create a new one as the starting point for maybe some new creation. Some other things that we are doing is we are allowing for this extra detail information of the dashboards that can be viewed for your end user. So you can provide them with that extra context that they might need. And also you will be able to set your own dashboards, the one that you maybe create as a company, to be certified. So for your users immediately to understand that this is an official dashboard created by you as the company. Of course, it still has the same drag and drop and resizing behavior that I like from the current core UI responsive dashboards. But the biggest benefit over that one is that now you just build the dashboard in context. So before you would always just build from previous created and stored analytics artifacts. So analytics that you created somewhere else, again, disjointed, and that you then would pick up to be placed on a dashboard. With the Next Experience dashboard, you're always creating the dashboard while you're looking at all the other content that is there. So you're creating it from scratch within the dashboard UI, and you just see it come to life. By the way, another cool feature that I super like is that when you later modify a data visualization, it actually provides you information of where and on which dashboard that analytics chart is actually being used. So it shows you actually the impact of some possible changes. Plus the dashboards provide this usage analytics data on how your users are actually using the dashboard, the amount of views or the amount of users using dashboards. We improved sharing to be easier, so a better user experience to be able to share your dashboards with your users, with your groups, with your roles, and set them actually to be either viewers or editors of the dashboard. Yes, the main benefit over the core UI 16 is that once you now share the dashboard within the Next Experience, it actually immediately provides the underlying content for the users you shared it with. And remember, before in the core UI 16, you always had to individually also share all these underlying reports for those users in order for them to actually consume them. So that is something that we immediately fixed in the Next Experience Analytics. Of course, the dashboard UI allows for several other components to be used aside from data visualizations like rich text and images, and of course also the unified filter. With there, I'm saying unified again, as it allows this single filtering method for any type of data, meaning if you configure a filter to a dashboard, it allows to filter your analytics, whether it's maybe table data that you would normally use as a report, or maybe performance analytics indicator data. So those really help for that issue that we used to have with, for example, breakdown filters versus interactive filters. Plus, you can also add those filters within the tabs or actually place them above the tabs where they can then apply for all your content within your dashboard tabs. And lastly, I've already talked about insights, but we are exposing those proactive insights also on dashboards. So you will be able to actually consume those analytics insights directly from your dashboards. Of course, always related to the content that you're actually showing on the screen. So the KPIs that you're using within the dashboard. And with that, we hope to actually make it easier to immediately get that meaningful insight from all the information that the dashboard is showing. Before and after, as shown before, this is an example of one of the responsive dashboards. And into the next, it shows a new version, a Next Experience dashboard, for example, also with those dashboard insights. Slicing and dicing into my KPI, so the exploratory ways to do analytics. We always will have the need to further dive into our analytics, our data over time, and try to find those anomalies and correlations. For example, when I, based on that exploration, want to set maybe targets and thresholds. Also, this part very much changed and very much improved. We all like the core UI analytics hub that we have over there, but it really needed to improve the complete user experience, make it more logical on how things were grouped and where the settings are around changing maybe aggregations or defining your trend. and bringing more flexible trend analysis. For example, it's now possible to actually side by side compare selected breakdowns and really learn something out of that trend analysis. There's much easier target and threshold management. So configuring targets, including setting up things like target review dates or making others actually responsible for certain targets without having to change their role for it. So all with the goal to reduce the overhead on those PA power users, those admins, to provide more control to the actual subject matter expert that is responsible for that, maybe that KPI, or at least for the target within the KPI. This area also allows for KPI signals. We talked about this one absolutely in the past. This is an amazing new feature only for the next experience, which actually allows you to filter the noise from all the data information that you are consuming by highlighting just that, what is important, and allowing you then to immediately take action on that. Different types of insights we will be surfacing are related to, for example, targets and thresholds. So for example, if you are still on track towards your target or about to miss something, but also around prediction, around when to you reach a certain goal. And next to that, we will also be showing significant changes in process trends, as well as insights coming from process mining. When we, for this one, look at the before and after, before, you can see here on the left, the Analytics Hub to do that KPI exploration, and on the right, KPI details, as well as the KPI signals feature to really surface those insights from the data. This slide, you most likely were also hoping to see the question on what about my existing content. Currently, you have all those reports, those PA widgets, those dashboards in the core UI and not in the next. So those were most likely limiting you to really start using things in the next experience UI. And again, we heard you say, with all those great capabilities in the next, if my own content isn't there, I cannot move. And you cannot make me have to create everything over again. So what we're doing is actually creating a tool for you to move that content that will create next experience versions of all your dashboards and all those analytics artifacts, and allow you to do that either in bulk or a more phased approach, or even allow you to immediately do that maybe long-awaited cleanup that you wanted to do. I will actually talk about that also in a bit. Before that, I have a few examples, some specific things that we heard and that we now have a solution for. Some of them I might have already mentioned. One of them is, why do we have interactive filters for reports and breakdown filters for performance analytics? Now, through the new unified filters in the next experience, that isn't a problem anymore, because that's capable of actually filtering both. You're using one, you're configuring as well as consuming one filter component to filter the data on whatever the data visualization data source underneath is using, whether that's reporting table data or performance analytics indicator data. And another one is creating analytics is hard. It was just also mentioned through the poll. PA type of creation in particular are not that end user friendly. We think that through the new single way to create these data visualizations, we're not only we not only made the user experience of configuration easier, but the fact that it's now consistent for each data source that you are using will actually help also with the adoption. So any future other data sources that we might add will go through the same way of configuration. And actually, near future, we will do something similar also for the actual data source configuration, like the creation of those indicators, those indicator sources or breakdown sources. We need analytics better integrated with the rest of the workflow apps and platform capabilities. I talked about disjointed and isolated. It sometimes feels too much as this separate area that you go for, that you go in, that you learn something from your analytics and take that knowledge to do something else. With the next experience solutions, we want to make analytics far more infused with the generic platform as is, with where your data is, immediately having the ability to do things with analytics where your data is or where your workflows are. So immediately be able to infuse your workflows with that embedded analytics to allow you to create that business decision where maybe your end user are also doing the work. And then there's this one, when will you allow me to explore the world beyond the second level breakdown? Though this is not specifically a deliverable of the next experience analytics, it is something that is being worked on in parallel and will actually surface on the next. Some of you might already be part of a smaller user group that is currently already testing it in limited access. Within Washington, with the Washington release, Safe Harbor applies. We are starting to use it ourselves internally, and then hopefully in a near future release after, we will be allowing to actually use the multiple levels of breakdowns far beyond the second level, also for your data. Are there any other questions that we take live?
Yeah, I mean, there's a few. I know a lot of them are getting answered via type, but one specifically, the taking visualizations, previous visualizations, and moving them over to the next experience. Do you have any idea of when that tool, migration tool, would be available?
Yes.
Hey, look at there.
Shall I just continue?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Okay. Now, what will happen is that migration tool, once activated. So we are, as we speak now during Washington, developing what we call that activation flow of the next experience analytics. And this flow will help you and your users understand what's coming as well as what's changing. And once you activate it, it will actually migrate your existing content to the next experience, where it will create those dashboards and those data visualizations. So that flow will be your migration tool to get your existing content actually over. Do understand that once you fully activate, the next experience analytics is that only default. You will not be using the core UI analytics experiences in parallel. That's simply, we don't want to add any more technical depth there moving forward. So we really want to move into a single solution, which by the way, doesn't mean that there's not an in-between period where you can still try out the next and get you and your users more comfortable with the next UIs and all those solutions and capabilities that I was talking about before.
Right. Yeah. I think just wanted to clarify one additional piece of that. So if I'm a customer and I enabled and I activated the store app for the Platform Analytics workspace, that's not going to change my ability to use the core UI dashboards at this point. I think it was on like that Tokyo or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, correct. So that initiative was there before and still basically allows those two hybrid worlds. So as it's showing on this slide, how we're doing that, you will basically get three options. Activate, meaning you start the migration of your content. So updating your navigational links, and you and your users will actually be starting to use analytics through the way that I just showed in this presentation, with being in the next experience analytics and their unified solutions. Two is more of this sandbox mode, this tryout period, again with the intent to fully move, but this option also allows for people to just start using the features and the capabilities in the next while still being in the core UI experiences as well. This option allows you to maybe already move some areas of your content over in case you want to provide for this more controlled phased approach. So here you technically would still be able to manage your change in such a way where you can plan certain people or groups or just certain groups to be using analytics in the old and maybe some already in the new. But you should always be aware of this risk here, where you would have users working in both areas, so that can have impact on where that content is created and consumed. And then three, of course, is postpone, where I wouldn't necessarily say do nothing here, as this was still the time to, of course, get your people engaged, also get them enabled and ready for using it once we activate it by default. And as mentioned, it's our intent to get everyone over to this improved experience. So currently in the Yokohama release, which will be live somewhere mid-2025, we plan to activate it and migrate it for you upon upgrade. I will, looking at the time, quickly jump over the demo. Maybe there's still a little bit of time, but there are 2 more slides that I want to show. There's this releases slide, just as a quick recap. And good to keep reiterating, much of the features that I've been showing are already there, though they're still being enhanced. You can actually already explore them, and you can get familiar with them using those dashboards and that data visualization designer and the KPI details and signals and those insights. That is the messaging that we've always been doing, which is get to know the new way and maybe create a new dashboard that you might need on the next instead of the core. But yes, we do understand that you currently don't move everything as simply your content isn't there. With the Washington release, you will be able to then opt in to everything that I show. So you will be able to activate. You can do that through the activate option upon once you are in Washington. Most likely, of course, you will first do it through a dev or test environment, but that activation will then migrate your content to the next experience analytics UIs. And also you will have the ability to, aside from that, go, of course, for that more hybrid, that tryout mode where you can take a bit more controlled approach. Or, of course, you postpone. Then in Xanadu, which still follows the same approach for upgrading customers around activation, though for net new customers, this will actually be the release that they just by default only get the next experience analytics way. And then going into the Y release, into Yokohama, this will be the release when we will be activating the next experience upon the upgrade itself. So mid-2025 or a bit later, when you decide to upgrade, your content will actually move into the next experiences. And by default, you and your users will be using those next experience analytics solutions that I've been showing. There was this one, but Dan actually already mentioned this one. We are indeed also internally looking together with the application teams as well as the workflow teams into the analytics that we ship out of the box to actually create something better moving forward. So it might be that there might be an equivalent in the next experience, but we try to immediately enhance upon the analytics that was once created, but once being maybe 5-6 years ago, their workflow changes, their application changes, their services changes, our analytics capabilities changes. So with that, we try to immediately create something better to bring us out-of-box analytics together with those app teams. And then there's this, which is my last slide, which is on enablement. Though I do think that this is a super exciting opportunity and an amazing way to get you to utilize basically the best of the best. The experience creating and consuming analytics should be better. And of course, we heavily user tested it and with some of you actually, and we learned a ton of that, as well as the fact that we are actually using it ourselves and users within the company. But we are conscious of the fact that this is still a change for you as well as for your end users. So the analytics chart will look different or slightly different, hopefully for the better, but of course with improved look and feel, they might interact different. Absolutely, the configuration UIs of that designer and the dashboard are different, but all, of course, with the benefits that I mentioned so far. And for that, we have the timelines that hopefully should allow you to get ready. And we want to help with that readiness by actually providing a ton of information. So through these Academy sessions, we want to update you on where we are, and maybe also through the community site itself, maybe through customer-facing programs, through documentation, release notes. One of the things that we're currently building is this enablement toolkit that will have a lot of that material actually available for you to start utilizing and start learning about what's coming and how to best not just train yourself, but also train the users within your company. Thomas, I think we are.
Yeah, we are at the top of the hour, but I think that we could still do this last poll real quick, just so we can get an idea quickly. Maybe if the who all is still here is able to answer real quickly, so we'll get an idea, and then I'll kind of or I'll close us out. So yeah, they're popping in now. We're getting a lot of results here, and I'll share those results quickly. Let's see. There we go. Really close between documentation and training material. Very close. Let me go ahead and end this, and then I will share the results. And you can see those. So it looks like some, beefing up the documentation, and then of course training material. So we'll get in with Now Learning and other things that we have as well. So
yeah, makes sense.
Go ahead, Robert John, you had something?
No, makes sense. And absolutely, we're focusing on many different platforms to share that information, but also many different ways of training material to really help you understand what's coming and how it will benefit.
Yeah. So real quick, I'll just go over one quick thing. Let me share my screen here real quick. Maybe if it's gonna work. What's going on? Here we go. There we go. Okay, you can see my screen. It should say the questions. Is that what you're seeing? Somebody?
Nope. I see your Finder or your.
Oh.
Yeah, we're seeing your applications list.
Yeah.
Okay, that's not the right screen then. There we go. Okay. There we go. Now we're seeing questions. So real quick, we're at the top of the hour. So or over the top of the hour. So thank you, Robert Jean, for giving us all this great content. Thank you to all of the panelists that were answering questions. A lot of good content. Robert Jean and I talk. I know that he had some demo stuff that he wanted to do. So we'll look at, see if we can't make that happen in the near future. But with that, if you signed up for this, great. If you can, please scan this if you want to be a contributor and really have put some feedback into some future things. We're definitely looking for that. Let me kind of go forward. Everybody's aware of these. So in 2 weeks, we're going to talk about mastering data relationships. It's a deep dive into dot walking related lists, remote tables, and database view. So hopefully you'll be here in 2 weeks. Hate to rush because we're over, but RJ, once again, thank you very much. Olga, Dan, Adam, and Tara, thank you as well. And we'll see everybody in 2 weeks. Thank you.